suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
Wolfman's got Nards!
And David Arquette. Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. I know that I said it in the title, but I just want to reiterate there's absolutely no spoilers in this booth. So we're finally back in Woodsboro and the opening scene of the movie was pretty damn good. I know that we see quite a lot of it. We don't get that dialogue in the trailer between the victim and Ghostface, and I think the dialogue at the start was on point. You get the dialogue in the original Scream when you've got Casey talking to Ghostface about all these horror movies. Well, 25 years later, we've got a movie called Stab, which you all know about. It's a kind of an iconic movie now. So he does trivia on the movie Stab. And it felt weird because when he was asking Casey trivia on Friday the 13th and Halloween back in 1996, you get that nostalgic rush. Whereas in the fictional town of Woodsboro, they get that same nostalgic rush with Stab as we do Halloween and Friday the 13th. What's also pretty cool is Tara, the girl at the beginning, she does like horror movies, but she's into the more artistic horror movies like The Babadook, which is her favourite horror movie, It Follows, The Witch, Hereditary. They mention movies like that, and I had a funny feeling that they would mention movies like the art house style thinking person's horror movie because they are up and coming horror movies, something that didn't get talked about in the last 4 Scream movies because they weren't really up and coming, but I'm glad they mentioned it in this movie. When we do finally get the reveal of Ghostface at the beginning of the film, I knew we were in for a really brutal Ghostface. I just like the way he emerges from the darkness and stands up really slow, and he is very brutal. Now this movie is an 18 in the UK, and Scream 4 was a 15 in the UK, so it's kind of like the equivalent of PG-13 in the US and rated R. But I think it definitely earned its 18 rated in the UK because every death scene was absolutely brutal. You saw everything, nothing was cut away this time. This looked like it's probably going to be the most uncut as this movie's ever going to be. Nothing gets held back in this one. If you're into your gore and your violence in horror movies, then I think Scream might be up your alley. The music took me back to the original trilogy at least. After the opening scene, it cuts to later on and you've got Sam and Richie talking to each other outside the bowling alley where they work. And they've got this song on, it sounds like Miss Jackson by Outkast. I think they used their mix. But just hearing music like that, it sounds old, but it's also new as well. It took me back to the first few Scream movies. As well as that, as well as the music, the score sounded great as well. The score sounded very reminiscent of the original 4 movies, so fantastic job on the music and the score. The story was interesting. When it comes to Scream movies, the stories can't be that much different to each other, but the stories in this one was very interesting. In this one, we've got relatives of people from previous Scream movies all coming together to try and defeat Ghostface and find out why Ghostface is targeting these people. I think overall that story worked. I think if you chose a different type of story, you would have to, without giving anything away, have to work your way in as to the reasons why you want certain things to happen without spoiling anything. So yeah, I think that's probably the best that they had with what they've got to work with without copying things that happened in the past. Reboots are always going to be something that I knew they were going to talk about in this Scream movie. They always spoke about in Scream films what was popular at the time, and at this moment in time it's reboots. But in this one they don't call them reboots, they call them requels. That might catch on eventually. And they're basically talking about how instead of doing sequels that people are tired of, they want to bring back legacy characters, basically doing what they're doing in this movie. Now I want to get into that part as well. I wasn't too fond of all the meta moments in this film. There was quite a lot. Some worked and some didn't, but I think they were over-explaining some things. When I'm mentioning requels, that's one of the scenes where they mentioned it and it was a little bit too much. I think the audience knows what we're in for. It is a Scream movie. We know there's going to be meta moments, but you don't have to force it into us because we know if you give us subtle hints, we will get it because we're Scream fans after all. Something that did work though was when they were going through all the meta moments as well as mentioning all these Hereditary, The Babadook, all the movie references as well. There was not a lot of comedy in this film. Yes, there was comedic moments and the comedic timing was good. They didn't take us away from certain things that were happening. This is a darker Scream movie. This is a horror movie. If I had to look at all the Scream movies, all 5 of them so far, I think this one is probably the darkest, maybe even the scariest Scream movie. But that doesn't mean it's the best. Hold your horses. I'm just saying there is comedy moments in all the Scream movies. But if you're looking at all the Scream movies and deciding which one had the least amount of comedy, the new one's got the least amount. We had quite a prolonged finale, quite a long finale. I did like that. The movie was just under 2 hours long, and it didn't feel like a 2-hour long movie or an hour and 54 minutes or whatever. The movie flew past pretty well. There was no dull moments either. There was times where people were sitting and talking, but we were interested in what they were talking about. So there was no scene fillers. There was talking, there was killing, there was talking, and then there was killing. There was no bits in between where I thought, what time is it? I'm getting bored. None at all. I was on the edge of my seat from the beginning to the very end. There was a story within the story, which I won't talk about until my spoiler video, but there was a story within this film that made me think that they could branch out and do more Scream movies. And I think that's what their intention is. Maybe not intending to go that direct route with the one that I'm thinking about, but they definitely have left it for more sequels, because if this movie is a success in the box office, then I'm sure they will make more. Overall, guys, I really liked it. I had high expectations for it because it did look good, and I'm glad that they left a lot out of the trailer, so the marketing was really good. If I had to decide, did it exceed my expectations or did it not? I think it slightly exceeded my expectations. I thought it was going to be good, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry I couldn't really talk about anything else. This is a spoiler-free review. I had to make it as less spoilerific as I could, and I think I achieved that. If you want to know more, or if you want to discuss more about the spoilers in the film, because there are quite a lot to talk about, I will be posting up my spoiler video talking about the movie and all the spoilers in it as well. So look out for that. But anyway, guys, leave the comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the movie, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.